Welcome back to California Highway 395 Attractions Part 3. In Part 2, we ended up back in Big Pine, which is where we are right now, and we're going to be heading north to a town called Bishop, California. In Bishop, we're going to head east on Highway 6, which is known as the Grand Army of the Republic Highway, to visit Laws Railroad and History Museum. Now, Mom, if this don't float your boat, I don't know what will. So hold on, here we go. The Laws Railroad Museum and History Site is listed on the National Registry of Historic Places by the U.S. Department of the Interior and is designated by the state of California as Historical Landmark number 953. Its hours of operation are 10 to 4, most days, closed on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. They only ask for a $10 donation, and children under 12 are free. Upon my arrival, there were only 2 cars in the parking lot, so I parked, went across the street, and there was a donation barrel that you could slip some money in, but there was not a soul around as far as employees. So, here is the plaque for the Laws Museum and the California Historical Site designation, and went into the first building, which happened to be the Railroad Depot, built in 1883, along with the Western Union Telegraph Office. This is the location of the Bishop Creek Railroad Depot, which grew into a sizable settlement after the first train steamed into the station on April 1st, 1883. April Fool's Day, how funny. In 1900, Southern Pacific Lines had taken over the Carson and Colorado Railroad and renamed the station Laws in honor of the railroad assistant superintendent. The station and its community flourished until the railroad ceased operations. It's pretty cool. If you listen closely, you can hear the telegraph clicking in the background, kind of like what Disney does. So awesome. Looking at the artifacts here, if this is any sign what the rest of this place is going to be like, it's going to be pretty doggone cool. I really like that big old potbelly stove. Can you imagine having to stoke that to keep all the passengers warm while they're waiting to send a telegraph or waiting for the train? Pretty cool. On April 30th, 1960, the engine lovingly known as the Slim Princess pulled her last train into Laws coming from Keeler. Southern Pacific subsequently donated the land, the Slim Princess with boxcars and a caboose, and the original railroad structures to the city of Bishop and Inyo County. Local visionaries formed the Bishop Museum and Historical Society in 1964, and the area residents immediately began donating entire historical structures along with the items ranging from antique pioneer furnishings, old photographs, wagons, farm equipment, mining equipment, even a working stamp mill. The model trains that are on exhibit here are pretty amazing. I can't imagine the time that went into them. Walking on these old wooden plank floors that creak as you walk, and oh, it's just so cool. And these old-timey maps. Mom, I hope you're enjoying this, because I sure did, actually. Just an FYI, Laws Museum continues to accept donation of historical, relevant items, making Laws a truly living museum. Laws Railroad Museum and Historical Site opened its doors to the public on April 1st, 1966, 83 years after the first train steamed into the station. It looks like these people have a good sense of humor. The loading platform has these cool little signs on it for the edge. I thought it was pretty clever. And the baggage carts, aren't those just amazing with those old trunks on them? Boy, this is so cool. I'm impressed so far, and only went into one building. While it's originally mainly a railroad site, Laws had grown into a community center for local homesteaders, farmers, ranchers, and miners. Similar, in modern times, the museum has grown from being a railroad center museum to a museum focusing on preserving and curating local history in all aspects. How cool is this little train for the kids to play in? Man, this place is... I'm impressed so far. Pretty cool. I think I can. I remember that as a kid. Here's a couple outhouses. One's marked men's and the other one women's. No, they're not open for use. As I said earlier, a lot of the structures were donated from people in the surrounding area. And boy, is there quite a few of them. The exhibits at Laws takes you back about 150 years ago, showing you what it was like to live in those times, displaying pioneering, ranching, mining, and the railroad provided insight into the style of life. Here's a good collection of old rusty miney stuff. Every facet of life is depicted, from outhouses to hair salons, from mining shacks to ranch houses, even spring wagons. This looks to be like a collection of old grinding stones. Opposite of the train depot is a bunch of buildings, so let's go explore. Let's take a look at the textiles and the beauty parlor. I wonder if there's local dressmakers that would put their goods for sale in the textiles store. I have no idea, but the beauty parlor, now look at some of these tools to make you beautiful. Some of these actually look like they plug in with ancient cords. Oh my gosh, check this out. You need your hair curled? Holy moly. I think this is the original definition of hair burner. Wow. It looks like the medical offices include pharmacy, the barber, the optometrist, dentistry, and the doctor's office. All in one. A barber in the medical offices? Okay. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense. If the barber were to slip during a shave, at least the doctor would be close by, right? And the dentist office. Look at the tools. They look pretty much the same as they do today. The pharmacy. Wow, is this thing stocked? This is your modern day Walgreens, guys. Look at this. I'll tell you, the donations they must have received over the years give this a totally fully stocked pharmacy a really good image of what it was like back in the day. This is amazing. There's so much artifacts here. And here's a collection of bedpans. There you go. And the optometrist. I mean, you can hear the faint sound, right? What's better, one or two? One or two? Look at this collection of eyeglasses and lenses. Wow. Okay, moving on. Let's go check out the doctor's office. Just so you know, medical care during the 19th century had been a curious mixture of science, home remedies, and quackery. Although healthcare of the 19th century appears quite primitive when compared to modern medical practices, significant scientific advances were made during the period. One of the most important of these breakthroughs occurred in the 1840s when it was discovered that inhaling ether or chloroform gases lessened the pain of surgery. Looking at some of these tools, I'll take all of it at once. Moving on to the firehouse. They have inside a 1947 white fire truck, which was purchased by the Bishop Fire Protection District, and it was in service until the early 1990s. There were other vehicles inside the firehouse, but man, I wish that fire truck was close to this glass. Even though there's so much reflection, it's hard to record, but it's so interesting to see all this nostalgic and all this old things. It's just crazy. Moving on to the print shop. Boy, this place is really old-timey looking for sure. What was it like back then having to typeset? Like each page, the words were on little wooden blocks with carved out letters. They had to put them all in the right order, and I think they were backwards or upside down, so when it printed correctly. What did it take to produce just one newspaper? It's amazing. And just think, all before the computers and emails, and look at these old-timey pictures of the print shop in action, 1885 to 1924. That's crazy. Wow, what an art. Next is the post office. Let's see what gems are inside there. Check out these old post office boxes. Wow, that's crazy. And the reward signs. Wow, just like you see in the old westerns, right? Pretty amazing. Next up is the stove house, and it is pretty much what it says. There's nothing but stoves on the outside. Man, these things are old. And on the inside, it's got a great collection. The community really stepped up here to help this little museum area with all these artifacts. The problem is this doggone glass. It's hard to take the video without a really bad reflection, but I guess it's necessary or else all these things would probably just disappear. Look at that old teapot. Pretty amazing. What a collection. I want to thank the community for the preservation of all this rusty gold, as I call it. And on to the photography studio. Look at all these cameras. What a collection. Throughout my travels, I've been to a lot of museums and historical places. I've never seen a collection this extensive. Next is the trading post. Now, this would be equivalent to a modern day Walmart, or that's how I saw it. You can get groceries and other items. Here's a cool statement I want to read to you. Since long ago, when the Owens Valley was inhabited only by native tribes, in its history is a complex weave of homesteading, ranching, mining, railroading, hydroelectric generation, and water resources. Innovations from mule freighting, steamships on desert lakes, lumber harvesting, and charcoal kilns to the building of the 20th century Sierra Highway from the portions of the old El Camino Sierra Trail all enrich the tapestry of the valley in the land of Little Rain, just east of the Sierra Nevadas. Wow, that says it all. Well, here's a fun fact. A few of the buildings, while original to Laws, do not actually date back to the period. Some actually originated as a movie set for the 1966 feature Nevada Smith, starring Steve McQueen. West of the Sun is a real recent movie filmed here, as well as Cerro Gordo, Keeler, and Bishop. Can't wait to check that out. In between each building, everywhere you look is artifacts. It's absolutely amazing. This barn held some pretty interesting stuff. Let's go inside and take a look. Just like the other buildings and exhibits, this thing is full of artifacts. From the saddles to these branding irons. Now, this is almost like a family tree, I bet, for the area of all the families and offshoots of the families with their own brand. This is really amazing. What a collection. Are you ready for a little history of the town of Laws? Well, here you go. On May 10th, 1880, the Carson and Colorado Railroad Company was formed and incorporated by William Sharon, H.M. Yearlington, and Darius Mills. They planned to run the narrow gauge railroad from Mound House, Nevada, and the Carson River to the Colorado River, calling it the C&C Railroad. It never reached the Colorado River, but stopped at Keeler, California instead. So every place has a thing, from coyote dentures to the Siamese lambs that were stillborn in 1938 on display here at the Laws Railroad Museum. Wow, there's always something. Well, that's going to do it for this trip to Laws, and what I mean by this trip is, here's the map of the Laws Museum and Historical Site. We've only covered this much. So yes, I'll be coming back to do more, but I've only got an hour to get to my campsite, and it's going to get dark soon. So let's hit the road. Heading north on the 395 out of Bishop is pretty beautiful. It's when you start getting into the trees and the elevation, and yeah, it's a very scenic drive. I'm currently on Owens River Road, and that's where the BLM camping area is located, which is just off the 395, a couple miles. There are plenty of apps you can use to find what they call dispersed camping. I just use Google. I just say disperse camping near here, and it'll take you to your choices. Anyhow, BLM, Bureau of Land Management, allows you to camp for free up to 14 days. So basically what you do is you get into the area, you turn on a dirt road, and you locate a campsite. The easiest way to find a campsite is off the dirt road. You can kind of tell where people have been, and there's usually a rock ring fire pit. And it's legal to have a fire as long as you're not in a closed area, fire season, or high fire area. So that's always nice, especially when you want to cook on your fire. Excuse me while I keep backing up and trying to get a level spot, so sleeping is a lot more comfortable if you can get really level. And as I did this, I looked up and I saw that tree to the right. Look how it's two branches growing up with one in the middle. It's like a pitchfork. It's pretty cool looking, isn't it? So this will be it. This is my spot. Now with that exorbitant price of free, here are the amenities that are included on BLM land. Nothing, absolutely nothing. You get amazing scenery. So everyone asks, how do you go to the bathroom? Well, you have to dig a hole minimum of 6 inches deep and do your business. That's the fact and the downside of this. But you save hundreds of dollars from hotel bills, and you don't get a view like this. And here is a BLM land fun fact, or maybe not so fun. It's recommended when you go out to these areas to find a campsite that you look for a pre-existing fire ring. They don't want you creating new ones. Alrighty then. Just the smell of all the trees is so amazing. So I thought, let's go for a hike before the sun sets. And as I started walking from the campsite, I found this tree, and I thought, that looks like Yogi's been here, as in Yogi Bear. So my senses kicked in, and this is how close I am to that tree, right there. So I started looking around, and over on the right here, coming up, is 3 trees in a row that look exactly the same. So now my spidey senses are kicking in and going, yeah, I'm going to stay close to the camp. I'm not going to wander too deep into these woods. Here's a camping helpful hint for the forest. Keep your food in a dry bag, and unless you have stuff that needs to be refrigerated, obviously, keep it in the refrigerator, locked inside your vehicle. If you tent camp, you got to be really careful of things like toothpaste, deodorant, gum. You never want those things inside your tent. It does attract bears. Hey Mom, look at all those pine cones. Aren't they cool? And this green ground cover is really pretty as well. Oh man, the forest compared to the desert, what a difference. I think I'm gonna go make myself a very quick dinner, no campfire, and get myself locked in for the night. The trees and the sky are just amazing up here. Here's another little helpful hint. When you're using BLM land, always pack out more than you pack in. And let's help clean this free land for the people up a little bit. It's quite simple, really. If you're out on the public lands and you see trash, pick it up and pack it out to a trash can. I mean, quite simple. Anyway, this is my view from the back of the truck for the night. I mean, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the sunset, I was real tired. I mean, Laws took a lot out of me today. That was a long visit. Well, alrighty then. Until tomorrow, we will continue the Highway 395 Part 3 with more attractions. So for now, good night. And just like that, it's morning. I had no bear incidents whatsoever throughout the night, so that was good, but I was out pretty hard because it was a long day yesterday. So we're heading away from the campsite to Owens River Road, where we're going to hang a right. In about 5 miles or so, we'll hit the California Highway 395, where we're going to take a right and head north about 19 miles away is our next little stop in a town called Lee Vining. Lee Vining is an unincorporated community in western Mono County at the eastern base of the Sierra Nevada. It is located 25 miles southeast of Bridgeport and 19 miles north of Owens River Road. Lee Vining is located on the southwest shore of Mono Lake, and as of 2022, the population is holding steady at 594 at a very cool elevation of 6,874 feet. This is definitely one of those towns that if you blink, you're gonna miss it. And at the end of town, we're gonna take a right and I'm gonna show you something that I found pretty fascinating. The town was named after Leroy Vining, who founded the town in 1852 as a mining camp. In 1926, the town was laid out by Chris Matley and named Lakeview, but when a post office was sought in 1928, it was learned that another town in California had the same name, so they named it Lee Vining after good old Leroy. The place was also called Poverty Flat for its unfavorable conditions for agriculture. That brown structure there on the left is why we're here. It is the Upside Down House. The Upside Down House is located at the Mono Basin Historical Society and Museum, which is the old Mono Lake Schoolhouse located at the south end of Hess Community Park. The museum was not open at the time of my arrival, but on the grounds there's all kinds of farming and mining equipment, what I like to call rusty gold. So let's take a look at that before we see the Upside Down House. This caught my eye. I couldn't believe I was looking at an anchor right next to the entrance to the museum. And I guess it makes sense, you know, Mono Lake, Owens Lake, these boats needed anchors amongst all this mining and different types of equipment on the grounds here. This big shovel was actually gasoline powered, not steam operated. And here's an air blower that would pump air deep down in the mines as they were mining for gold. Pretty amazing. Look at how heavy duty that is. Check out this old belt-driven stamp mill. Man, this thing is huge. Stamp mills would smash or crush the rocks to release the gold-bearing ore for processing. Can you imagine the sound this sucker probably made? Oh my gosh. OSHA, where's your earplugs? This stamp mill was donated from the Log Cabin Mine near San Francisco. Pretty impressive. I'm sure it was probably steam-powered as well. The grounds surrounding the museum has a lot of good old rusty gold to take a look at, like this old water tank from the Benton to Bodie Railroad, and this air compressor truck caught my attention because the whole truck just to compress air, which I'm sure operated all the mining tools down in the mines. There sure is a lot to see here on these grounds, and I think they did a great job of preserving it all. But let's start talking about the Upside Down House. It was the genius idea of Nellie Bly O'Brien, longtime resident and lover of the Mono Basin, and apparently a hater of gravity. Taking inspiration from two of her favorite children's stories, Upside Down Land and the Upside Downians, which Nellie recalled after seeing a tipped-over miner's cabin. Nellie went to work, completing the house to much fanfare in 1956 and becoming Mono County's first man-made tourist attraction. Looking at the structure, it looks like there's a front entrance and a rear entrance, but it was locked up. And you'll see here in a minute some pictures from the inside. It doesn't look like it's been used recently. Now, the only thing that I noticed that wasn't upside down was the front door. But everything else was, including the mailbox out front. And the plaque was even upside down. Pretty doggone cool. I tried taking shots through the windows, but we need housekeeping to clean those windows. Fun fact, the Upside Down house wasn't Nellie's first foray into the spotlight. In 1917, she broke new ground and became the first licensed woman movie projectionist in LA and appeared in several of Charlie Chaplin's silent films. And there you have it, the Upside Down house in Lee Vining, California. And thank you, Nellie, for building that so we could tour it many, many years later. I would like to mention, before the Upside Down house took up its current residency at the Old Schoolhouse Museum in Lee Vining, the house was located along the 395 north of Tioga Lodge. Upon her death in 1984, the house rotted away for many decades. Apparently, the 80s and 90s weren't kind to things upside down, until it was saved by the locals and moved to its current site in October of 2000. A big shout out to the locals who moved and preserved it so we could all enjoy it in the future. And here is the first glimpse of Mono Lake. Back in 2022, when I actually visited the lake, I hiked down from this amazing park, and there was a boardwalk that took you all the way out to the receding shoreline, because this lake has been drying up and filling up for years. And on that hike, you can actually see all the tufas. Here's the thumbnail of that journey. And back then I called it Mono Lake. I so apologize. I didn't realize it was pronounced Mono. Since the highway department gave me a sign about a quarter mile away at doing 60 miles an hour, let's pull over and check out the lake. Actually, from what I remember, this thing looks a lot fuller than it was before, back in 2022. Wow. Well, as soon as you pass Mono Lake, you start climbing a hill, and that's when you get in the elevation. There's a lookout, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to see if I can find my old footage and do a comparison. So yeah, looking pretty good there, Mono Lake. So the lookout is not available when you're traveling north, just an FYI. You gotta go past it, turn around, and go back. Crazy. And actually, when you leave the lookout, it's really designed only to go south, so I'm not going to tell you how I ended up going north, because I wasn't going all the way down the grade and then back up again. Anyhow, let's check this out. Alright, this little experiment, I don't know, because I don't have the same angles from 2022. So I looked it up online, and it looks like there's a 13-foot difference this year. It's higher by 13 feet than it was back in 2022. 13 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but if you spread it over how huge this lake is, in the 2022 shot, you see a lot of more brown where the water, light brown where the water line meets. So yeah, 13 feet does make a pretty big difference, I guess. What's hard to imagine is when the lake was really full back in the day, like all of this that you see would have been underwater. But thanks to the LA County that needs the drinking water, they keep these lakes just barely wet. Just north of Lee Vining, about 26 miles, is Bridgeport, California. It's in Mono County and is the Mono County seat. The population in 2022 was 408, and the elevation is 6,463 feet. And with that elevation, as you can see, the orange poles on the sides of the road means this area gets snow. The Bridgeport Valley is ringed by mountains, with the Sierra Nevada to the west, the Sweetwater Mountains to the north, and the Bodie Hills to the east. The first post office at Bridgeport was opened in 1864. Just before you reach the city of Bridgeport, which we're traveling through now, is the turnoff for the Bodie Ghost Town, located at Bodie State Park, and it is the most complete gold town that has structures, and it's got everything. if you're ever in the area, plan to spend about 4 hours there. It's something not to miss. And if you'd like to take a tour of the Bodie ghost town on video, check back on this 2022 Highway 395 video, which I go to the town of Bodie and check it all out. Just about 35 miles north of Bridgeport is Colville, California, which we're gonna make a real cool stop at. Bridgeport, California to Reno, Nevada is about 134 miles. But check out this scenery. It is amazing. On the outskirts of Colville, California, on a very nondescript pullout, on June 17, 2002, an air tanker fighting a blaze north of Yosemite National Park caught fire and crashed in the Sierra resort town of Walker, killing all 3 crew members on board. Authorities and witnesses say the plane crashed south of Colville High School and came within a few hundred feet of hitting a mechanic shop on the north side of Walker. 3 crew members of the U.S. Forest Service Lockheed C-130A Hercules air tanker were killed in the crash. A witness says the plane was destroyed by impact and fire. He says it went down after making a drop of fire retardant. The plane came in low to the ground, trailing a red flow of fire retardant above the tall green pines. Both wings suddenly snapped off, with flashes of flame as they separated. The fuselage rolled left, spiraled nose first into the ground. The NTSB investigated the crash and determined that the accident was caused by a structural failure that occurred at the wing to fuselage attach point, with the right wing falling just before the left. The investigation disclosed evidence of fatigue cracks in the right wing's lower surface skin panel, with origins beneath the forward doubler. Fire departments from all over leave their marks in honor of Steve Wass, Craig LeBaire, and Mike Davis. Alrighty then, let's check out our travel map. We started in Big Pine, then went to Laws Railroad Museum and Historical Site in Bishop, camped out overnight at Owens River Road, went to the Upside Down House in Lee Vining, drove through Bridgeport, and then ended up in Colville. What a journey this trip has been, from the first stop at the Musical Road in Lancaster to Colville, California. After traveling 324 miles and stopping at over 40 attractions, it's time for me to head west on Highway 50 and visit my friend for her birthday in the East Bay. Check out the travel map on this trip. Like I've said many times, there is so much to see on the 395. And we have not seen it all. Rest assured, I'll be back to bring you more soon. I have to visit the other 3/4 of the Law Museum. Did you know California Highway 395 starts in Hesperia, California, and goes to the Canadian border, with a total distance of 557 miles. And the 395 is used as an access route for both the highest point in the United States, Mount Whitney, and the lowest point in North America, Death Valley. If you would like to watch all the videos when this road trip started, here's the thumbnail of the first video, California Highway 14 attractions, and then a standalone video for the hike through the Burl-Schmidt Tunnel, and on to California Highway 395 Part 1, then Part 2, finishing with this video, California Highway 395 Part 3, and let's not forget the 2022 Highway 395 video that I referred to many times throughout this series. Thank you all for watching, and more to come. Love you, Mom.